Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Celtic Way. I am your host, John McGinley, joined by Josh McCafferty this evening. We're here to run the rule over Celtic's disappointing and ultimately damaging defeat at home to Hibernian at Celtic Park earlier today, defeated 2-1. Not a great afternoon, Josh. You were there. You're back down the road. Everyone's back down the road, or up the road, depending on where you live, Josh. But how are you feeling this evening? Not a fantastic day for Celtic.
Yeah, I was at the game, working at the game, and I was thinking with about 10, 15 minutes to go, say 10 minutes to go, it's one each. Rangers are getting beaten, Livingston, Celtic are down to 10 men, and you're thinking this might not be that bad a point for Celtic. It could turn out to be a useful point for Celtic, but then Hibs score at the death. Rangers get a late equaliser at Livingston, and all of a sudden the whole picture shifts, and they've lost crucial ground in the title race. So not an ideal afternoon for Celtic. It just shows how quickly this picture of this title race can turn.
Yeah, it is there's twos and throws here. There's ups and downs. It can swing both ends. Today just felt like a missed opportunity, though, didn't it? Obviously, Hearts won yesterday, picked up a result against Falkirk. You're thinking any day that the opposition is dropping points at the moment, Celtic have to capitalise, especially at home. Now, Hibernian, not the easiest of opposition by any means. I thought they played decently well, but Celtic just not quite there for me. I think they had a lot of pressure in the match, but they never really made that count, Josh, which was probably my biggest disappointment. For all the pressure and kind of possession that they had, they still only managed 3 shots on target throughout the whole 90 minutes. That's not a great position to be in. And from his perspective, I mean, they'll be looking at it. I think Chaiwa in their midfield, Miguel Chaiwa, he did a fantastic job, I thought, for them in the middle of the park, kind of running the show for them. I would say he was probably the man of the match. And Celtic just never really found a way to build enough sustained pressure on Salinger in the goal. Yes, crosses into the box, plenty of shots here and there, but nothing troubling that goalkeeper. Obviously beyond Benjamin Nygren's equaliser just on the stroke of half-time. And I'm just disappointed with the performance. I know there's other aspects about today that we'll get on to, but I wanted to discuss the performance first because I don't want it to be like we're making excuses for Celtic. I think we'll discuss some of the VAR incidents later, but just a frustrating afternoon for me, Josh. And maybe not that surprising. I maybe came out of Thursday thinking today could be another day that Celtic drop points.
Yeah, I think it's one of them where a lot of people, ourselves included, felt like a result like this was coming for Celtic, just given the way they'd been performing domestically. It was going to catch up with them at some point, and today was that day. They had some sustained pressure on Hibs, and the crowd got right behind them on a number of occasions. I thought the crowd were actually really good today, but they just couldn't carve out any clear-cut chances. I mean, Thomas Trinchara, when he was in the box, he more often than not actually had his back to goal instead of actually trying to get on the end of crosses or try and score. And when he did have one opportunity, he completely fluffed his lines.
Yeah.
And I think it's a common theme with Celtic this season that they've lacked that real creative spark, whether that be in the middle of the park or whether that be in the final third, in terms of actually carving open a stodgy defence like Hibs today and making something happen, a moment of magic. I mean, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, his quality is there for all to see in midfield, but I don't think he's that type of player who can fully create something, and you can't just be relying on him as well. I mean, Benjamin Nygren was saying that the other night with some of his comments. So yeah, the performance wasn't great, not at all. I feel like, though, if Celtic did have 11 men on the park throughout the game, they might have built up enough pressure at the end to go and score because they've just been doing it so often. But at the same time, you can't be relying on going into the last 15-20 minutes of games solely on getting a goal and the experience of scoring late on and the crowd getting behind you. You need to be putting these games out of sight with 20-30 minutes to go and making it a comfortable afternoon for all involved, especially when you're in a title race, and they've not managed to do that. It could be, they've also lost 3 points on Hearts this weekend, lost 2 points, lost a point on Rangers, and that could be crucial come the end of the season. And the decisions cost them, yes, but I don't think the performance, probably even if they had 11 men, would it have warranted a win? I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the table now, I'll throw up the table here. I was going to do this later, but we might as well do it now. If you look at the table here, I mean, you're really looking at that game in hand as being pivotal, of course, for Celtic getting back into this. But going away to Pittodrie, just given the way the team are playing right now, I don't have a massive amounts of faith in that one. Not least, there's a match away to Rangers next week at Ibrox. Not feeling particularly confident about that
Yeah,
one either, Josh. Not because
yeah,
I'm incredibly fearful of Rangers, just the way that Celtic have been scraping through matches recently against bottom six opposition, and now we're going into massive matches, a massive match at Ibrox, just huge. And so before today, I think I was thinking, maybe a point at Ibrox is a good result in the context of everything. Just the way everything has happened today, and now this position in the table, you're really looking at a victory at Ibrox is needed to kind of recharge Celtic and get them back into this, because you can't let Hearts get too far away either.
yeah,
If we drop points against Rangers at Ibrox, then Hearts will have the opportunity to push on again. And we're running out of games here. And
yeah.
there's no real getting around it. Celtic have lost 7 games this season, which is an incredible amount for apparent title challengers. And I just really think now today's result, I think, has put pressure on Celtic to have to go to Ibrox and pick up a win effectively.
I think the big concern, John, is how quickly it could unravel. So I don't think anyone backs Celtic to go to Stuttgart on Thursday evening and get a result or get a win. They'll probably get beat, if we're all being honest. That means they go to Ibrox off the back of 3 straight defeats. Obviously Stuttgart, Hibs, Stuttgart. If they lose at Ibrox, they go 9 points behind Hearts, assuming Hearts win their game. And then they go to Pittodrie, and they'd be going to Pittodrie off the back of 4 straight defeats. Very difficult to recover from that situation. Then if they don't win at Pittodrie, they go to Ibrox in the Cup. If they get knocked out of the Cup at that point, their season could be over. So that is my big concern over this next week and a half, 2 weeks, is how quickly Celtic's season could easily unravel. But then again, you've got the other side of that where their season could come alive in these next few games. If they go and win at Ibrox next week, then the title challenge gets a huge shot in the arm. Go to Pittodrie and win your game in hand, then you go to Ibrox with a full blown loan end, potentially knock Rangers out the Cup, and then you're on for a double. So it's an absolutely crucial period coming up for Celtic, and that's just the peaks and troughs that could potentially happen. But today, going into that period off the back of a loss like that is just not ideal in the slightest.
Yeah, it's difficult. Obviously, Martin O'Neill's in the job right now. He's taking the brunt of all this pressure and a fair amount of criticism for today, etc. The damage was done up to this point. That was Martin O'Neill's first defeat as Celtic manager in a domestic match, which says how consistent he was in domestically up to that point. But the damage done this season was always going to, I think, be hard to overcome. And I'm just worried now that we're maybe at the end of that rope now. And listen, we're saying we have to go to Ibrox and win, and then we have to go to Pittodrie and win. Based on everything that I've seen so far this season and based on recent form, I have to say that feels less likely than likely, and I have to be honest about that. Obviously, I have hope. I always have hope when Celtic go into a derby match, Josh, right? But just based on everything I've seen this season and the way the team are performing, the issues in that Celtic attack, which is consistently, I feel like, the problem, more consistently than maybe other areas of the team. I think all departments at Celtic really have been underwhelming this season. Midfield, defence, goalkeeping, but that attack, I just keep coming back to it. I mean, that chance that Thomas Tranchara missed today, again, I don't want to throw him under the bus because it's one chance in a match that Celtic, I felt, had the territory and possession to do more with. But the way that he kind of fluffed his lines there was demoralising for me, Josh, I have to admit, because you're hoping that some of these new guys can show what's required. Obviously, he's had that header, he's had big moments, he's made a decent impact since he's come into the club, and it was just glaring there for him for me. He was just right in front of the goal. He just needed to get it on target, and it just kind of bobbled away from his foot. He attempted a shot, and it kind of looped away, and it was a moment that I feel like we've seen a lot of at Celtic this season, and nothing seems to be changing. And I guess that's why it was no harm to Thomas Tranchara. He's not at fault for the mess that Celtic season is, but it was just another moment in a long line of them this season that demoralised me.
Yeah, I mean, in years gone by, someone like Kyogo gobbles up that chance, and I think it doesn't help Thomas Tranchara that he knows the pressure, he knows what happens if he doesn't take that chance, and he just looked totally dejected after it. He looked straight up to the crowd above that goal, and everyone's so frustrated. You heard the groans about the stadium after that, because I think that chance was it 1-0 to Hibs that chance came because Nygren scored a couple of seconds later. But yeah, another missed opportunity really, and a long line of missed opportunities. Just looking at the form there though of Celtic's two title challengers, we talk obviously about Celtic being inconsistent. Hearts and Rangers have both taken 9 points from the last 15 available. So I think the silver lining to all of this is that the other two teams in this title race are not entirely consistent either.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I hear a lot of people, and actually people in kind of my circle of people who I talk to about Celtic regularly, they keep talking about this split as like, you know, the top six split has been an opportunity for Celtic to kind of, you know, maybe we can push on from that point. You know, the pressure's really on, top six playing each other. And I guess, again, I don't want to be an omen of ill will, but actually, when you look at it, Celtic in the split, it might be harder for Celtic than the other teams, than Hearts and Rangers, because they've performed better against the top six than Celtic have on occasion this year. So I think people keep looking for these moments to kind of spark the season into life. When will it come? Will it be all those last minute winners? Will it be Ibrox and Pittodrie? And they just keep waiting and waiting, and that's what's so frustrating about this season, Josh. We've not yet been put out of our misery, and we're still waiting for that moment, because we're all searching for, well, surely there's going to be a moment where Celtic click into gear, and it just hasn't quite happened yet. And it feels tantalisingly close every single match day at the moment. And I guess until we are put out of our misery, that we're going to continue to feel like that. Listen, and that's why today was so frustrating again for me, because it's an opportunity to, you know, go into second place ahead of Ibrox and really put the pressure on the other teams around us, and we just failed to do so again. As you mentioned, Josh, part of the reason for that was the red card shown to Austin Trusty. A strange incident for me, because the two players are dueling in the box. Austin Trusty's trying to get him off, and then inexplicably, I think, for some reason, he just kind of lashes out and kind of hits the guy's arm with his fist or his palm or whatever he does. He lashes out to an extent, and he receives a red card of it. Martin O'Neill kind of echoed my comments on that, because, listen, I think by the letter of the law and by the rules, it was a sending off. I think in the culture of football and what we've historically seen in football, I think we've probably seen that instant, you just be, you know, two players receive a talking to. But in the age of VAR, where everything's under a microscope, you just can't be doing that. And this is what Martin O'Neill said in the press conference after the game. He said, I've just had a word with the referee, and he said that he was just going to have a word with the two players first of all. Then I think VAR intervened and said that it was violent conduct. At the end of it all, you can't do this if these are the rules now. It doesn't matter whether somebody's holding on to you at all. In an attempt to break away, you can't, I think, thrust down in the manner in which he did. So I've been told that's called violent conduct. Austin Trusty obviously sent off, and now he does miss the game at Ibrox as well. So Celtic without a defensive player for that massive trip across the city. What was your view of the incident, Josh? I know you said to me you weren't convinced that it was a red card kind of initially when you were at the game, etc. How do you reflect on it now?
Yeah, I've seen it back once or twice, and obviously by the letter of the law I understand that it probably is a red card because violent conduct is the law. But I just feel like this might be a bit of an older viewpoint, but I just think the game is gone if you're given red cards for that nowadays. Like, I just feel like the Hibs player has gone down far too easily. He's made a complete meal of it. But for Austin Trusty, I mean, you could argue that he has cost Celtic, just given the kind of brain fart moment, and it's another brain fart moment for him. Obviously, you go back to the semi-final with Rangers in the League Cup. Obviously, Willie Collum came out after that and defended the decision not to send Trusty off. But I think everyone would probably agree that he got away with one that day. And today, obviously, he didn't, and now he's going to miss that big game at Ibrox. It gives Martin O'Neill a massive dilemma. It puts the team in a spot of bother, whether they throw in Benjamin Arthur, whether they go with Dane Murray, whether he goes with Kieran Tierney at centre-back and plays Marcel Sirachi at left-back. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, it was a game-defining call, and it could turn out to be season-defining for Celtic. But obviously then seconds later, you have the penalty appeal, John, and I'm sure we can get onto that.
Yeah, a few comments here. Jim saying red all day. Tim Billy saying St Mirren player sent off the night before for the same thing. Sugarman saying ball was dead, which makes VAR intervention strange. Not sure I've seen a red when the ball is dead. I think in the instance of violent conduct, I think that supersedes that.
Yeah,
That kind of. So that's why I would say. And listen, I'm not saying it's not a red card. It's just it was a frustrating incident again. Just one of those weird incidents that I feel like I've coloured a lot of Celtic season so far. I'm just not quite sure both what Trusty's thinking in that moment. Like, why is he doing that? Like, I know he wants the guy off him. He almost did have him off him. He kind of shrugged him off. He kind of gets him off of him, and then it's when he lashes out after it. And I just don't understand. He knows the scrutiny that players are under these days.
And I think as a more general point, I mean, I think the Hibs player has bought it very well. He obviously knows that he can wind up Austin Trusty, get on his nerves, and then go down when the excessive kind of violent conduct comes. And I think that sort of black magic, so to speak, the dark arts is something Celtic have missed for a number of years in their team, especially since Scott Brown left. They've missed a character like that. And obviously, I don't think Jamie McGrath is that type of character anyway.
No.
Just that bit of streetwiseness. I think Celtic lack that, and obviously Austin Trusty kind of fell for it today.
And listen, so while I think it was a red card, probably ultimately by the letter of the law, as we're saying, I do think Celtic should have had a penalty moments later.
Yeah.
Liam Scales hauled to the ground. The replay shown very much the defender has a grip on Liam Scales in the box, pulls his shirt quite sharply. Now, Liam Scales, some might say, goes down quite easily. Maybe he's kind of doing similar to what you're mentioning there, Josh. But he goes down. I think there's enough contact and enough of a pull there for him to go down. And I think Celtic should have been given a penalty, frankly. And I'm not sure, what the confusion was. The referee said to Martin O'Neill after the game, he said, the referee said, this was Martin O'Neill quoted in his press conference after the game. The referee said, I think his words were that he didn't hold on to him long enough, but it seems a wee bit strange. If you're grabbing somebody's shirt and he's making a move to try and get the ball and you're holding on to his shirt, it was some years ago, it was a penalty some years ago, but I don't know. VAR, I think they passed that one on. So there we go. Martin O'Neill very much clearly thinking Celtic should have had a penalty there as well, Josh. Strange incident again. It was made all the stranger by the announcement in the stadium over the tannoy and on the big screen that this was ruled out because it was an infringement outside of the box, which obviously made no sense. I think that was more an error in the kind of the operation of VAR rather than that's why the decision was made. The penalty wasn't not given because he was outside the box, because it's clearly on the edge of the 6-yard box. Yeah. But a strange episode all round, Josh.
Yeah, and it was literally, so they're waiting on the corner to be taken. Trusty lashes out, and the corner eventually does get taken, and so it's literally milliseconds later. It's a penalty kick every day of the week in my book. Liam Scales was irate. I watched him run back. He was moaning at the officials. Then when he eventually got back into position at the left centre half, he was moaning and shouting over to the fourth official at the side of the pitch. So yeah, it's a Stonewall penalty. If Celtic scored that penalty, you wonder if they hold out for the 3 points, because there was still 15 minutes to go at that point. But yet again, similar to the Trusty one, game defining and could be season defining for Celtic.
Yeah, and again, just frustration for me. That's my word of the day, unfortunately. And I just think, just going back to Martin O'Neill's comments, what the referee said, that he didn't hold on to him long enough. I'm not sure about that excuse or that reason being given. I just felt there was enough force there, a big yank on his shirt as they're running for the ball. It's going to imbalance him. I don't think the length of time that somebody's holding on to someone's shirt really applies here. I don't think it's that relevant. So listen, whatever the referee's spinning, I'm not really buying, and I got the sense that Martin O'Neill wasn't really buying it either. But he was defiant afterwards as well, Josh, in that press conference. He basically said that Celtic are not out of this title race yet, that they're not going to give up, etc. He said he acknowledged that today was a setback, but he feels Celtic are still in this very much. Yeah,
I think he's right, just based on the fact that Hearts and Rangers have been quite inconsistent of late. Celtic have been there over the course, we know this. One thing I will say about today, I was actually thinking this coming back, talking about like, the Medal of Champions and the sign of champions and such things. We've obviously said that a lot with Celtic recently, getting the late goals. But when you go down to 10 men, we saw Hearts multiple times this season go down to 10 men and manage to win games of football been down to 10 men for far longer periods than what Celtic were today. I mean, Celtic were only down to 10 men for 15 minutes and they couldn't find a way to win. But, I mean, they are only 6 behind Hearts with a game in hand. What is it? How many behind Rangers now? I've actually lost track of the whole situation with Rangers because they're not even top of the league. Well, there you go, 2 points behind Rangers with a game in hand. So, but like I said earlier, the upcoming period is so crucial because it could unravel the whole season, or it could give Celtic the shot in the arm they need. Just going to have to wait and see how it unfolds. I mean, you mentioned earlier, like, obviously it's a must-not-lose game. It's a must-win game now at Ibrox.
Yeah.
Obviously, Celtic draw that game, you're thinking 2 points behind Rangers, still with a game in hand it would be, and then you're still to play them at Parkhead after the split, so a draw might not be the worst result there, but what it would do is it'd lose ground on Hearts if you draw the game, and then the gap to Hearts gets bigger, which Celtic just cannot afford at this moment in time. Because
that's my worry. Yeah, that's my worry at the moment. Like, before you're kind of keeping one eye on Rangers, now Hearts are they've opened up a wee gap over Celtic again, and listen, it's not sustainable. Look, I thought the team came out after the second half, and I thought initially in the start of that second half they looked bright. It lasted about 10 minutes though, and it just everything ran out of steam. And you're talking there about moments Hearts have gone down to 10 men and won the game anyway. I didn't see that fire in the end of that Celtic performance today. It seemed like the energy had been drained out of them. It felt like they'd lost something in the way that Trusty had been sent off. Usually a penalty incident like that, where players feel very aggrieved that they've not been given something, that can fire up players as well. I just didn't see that today. There was something missing there for me. And I don't know if we're back to confidence issues. I don't know if it's just simply that some of the players aren't good enough. That could be a myriad of reasons, Josh, but just it was there for them. It felt the game was there for them, and it just slipped through their fingers.
Do you think, John, there's a scenario in which Celtic could finish fourth? Motherwell are 4 points behind them. They're still to play Motherwell twice. Motherwell come to Parkhead on the 14th of March, and then Celtic play them at Fir Park after the split. Do you think there's a scenario in which Celtic could finish fourth?
It's really depressing, but it's not an impossibility to me, and I think it's a viable concern. And I think it's the kind of comment that people might say at first blush when they first hear something like that, Josh, that they might think it's absurd, but it's not absurd.
Yeah, when you look at that table, I mean, look at the goal difference. Motherwell 27. Obviously, they won 5-0 last night, but I certainly think it's a realistic scenario as well if Celtic keep playing the way they're playing.
And actually, something interesting about Askew that everyone's talking about is the way his team function in possession and like how nice they are on the ball and moving forward in possession. But they've only conceded 18 goals in the league this season, which is very, very impressive. They've got a hell of an amount of clean sheets, and they've been doing excellently in their control of matches. That's been one of their big strengths this season. So, listen, I'm not ruling out. I can't rule anything out at the moment, Josh. I mean, this table on the 22nd of February in a league season is incredibly, incredibly depressing. And if you're ruling out Celtic finishing at fourth, then you need a bit of a reality check, I think, because it's not totally out with the realm of possibility at all. Celtic can finish fourth, third, second, or first here, and actually first is looking less likely than some of the others. So that's where we are.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting end to the season. I just thought I'd raise a point because Motherwell have been so impressive, and obviously Celtic haven't been very impressive either. And I like the cut of Jens Bertolaskew's jib, as they say. So yeah. Yeah,
and listen, nobody's really talking about Motherwell, are they? I think Motherwell fans secretly think they can maybe pick one of these teams and finish in a top 3 position. So fair play to them for believing that. And there's no reason not to believe that. If I was a Motherwell fan, I would be believing that today as well. Yep. So that's where we are.
Yep,
and Josh, thank you today. Thank you for your hard work today and your coverage of Celtic at Celtic Park, despite losing 2-1 to Hibernian. We will be back tomorrow. Tony and Ryan will be on duty on the morning briefing. There will be a weekly podcast with myself and Hamish as well. So lots to cover, lots to discuss as always. We will be building up to Stuttgart on Thursday, but of course the main event over the next 7 days is that match at Ibrox. Matt O'Neill pretty much confirming that as well in his post-match. Josh pretty much saying there will be rotation. You did also ask about Joel and Vuka just before we leave. He suggested that the intensity of this Celtic moment might just be a bit too much for Invika right now.
Yeah, so I asked about that at the end of the press conference, and that's pretty much what Martin O'Neill said, which I think for me is is a bit of a concern. So when obviously we know that Joel Mvuka wasn't Celtic's first choice right wing option in the January window, but when you sign players, you'd like to get a rough idea of their ability to cope with the intensity of the situation that they're coming into. And obviously Joel Mvuka played that 45 minutes against Dundee in the Cup, was hooked, and he's not really been seen since. So I just think that's a bit of a concern about the recruitment of that particular player, that maybe Martin O'Neill doesn't trust him in this environment.
Yeah, and that is a worry. That is a worry because, as I've said consistently for months, Celtic need a functioning right wing option that is a step above what we've seen for large chunks of the season. And right now they don't have it. They don't have it. There's all sorts of issues in this Celtic team. We'll continue to discuss it as the season progresses. Thank you for joining us in the live chat today. Let us know what you thought of today's performance and the incidents within it in the comments below as well. And we'll see you next time on the Celtic Way.